As a community content creator, what does it mean to move on? How do you know when it's time to move on? Is it after you publish your first scenario? After you publish your second? After you hit copper, silver, electrum, become print on demand? What is the next step? Greetings, Miskatonic Repository. My name is Heinrich Mohr, and I want to talk to you about your exit strategy. The Miskatonic Repository has existed for over 5 years. In that time, over 1,500 titles have been published on the repository, 2/3 of them in English. Dozens, hundreds of authors have published on the MR. Maybe they are first-time publishers. Maybe they've released a dozen scenarios or more. Regardless of where you are in your journey, there may come a time you ask, where do I go from here? What is the exit strategy? And does there even need to be one? Let's step back and look at how we got here. For many of us, the journey of publishing on the repository has a few common story beats. First, we struggled to publish our scenario, but with encouragement from the community, we reach the milestone and release our first product. Maybe we get it to copper, maybe silver. Eventually, sales slow, and you decide to publish a second scenario. Maybe you see if you can hit a higher sales number. Maybe try to get one or the other scenario to Electrum to become eligible for being published print on demand. But what then? How do we remain engaged, if we even want to remain engaged? These are hard questions, and no one should feel upset for experiencing them. It might mean many things, but let's talk about how we might wish to push back on these feelings, if indeed we want to. So some of this comes down to why you want to get published in the first place. Whatever that motivation was, it may keep you going. But it also isn't unusual for the high from publishing your first scenario to fade. So how do we stay motivated? Well, there's at least a few options. First, there's always room for improvement. You can always strive to make your next scenario better than what came before. That may mean better writing, better structure, better layout, better art, whatever you decide to improve on. I've written 3 scenarios on the repository: Unremembered, Little Torches, and The Great Trap. Each of them increases in complexity, from the game mechanics to the story and even the art. With each scenario, I built upon or developed new skills, and they helped take my scenarios in new creative directions. Second, there's always something novel. It could be a new kind of scenario, a new topic or structure, collaborating with other creators, imposing limits on yourself as to the scenario's length or error or word count. Maybe you had a fantastic idea before and never got to act on it. Maybe there's something another author did that you want to emulate. But after 1, 2, 3, or however many scenarios, you may not want to write scenarios anymore. In that case, you may try reinventing your creativity. Scenarios are only one type of product on the repository. It could be time to stop writing scenarios and create something entirely different. For me, that was Heinrich's Call of Cthulhu Guide to Character Creation, a book filled with randomized tables to help you create interesting and memorable investigators. For others, it may be a player aid, a solo campaign, or something that we haven't yet seen. Reinventing and experimenting still means you're producing something on the repository. Maybe that's not where you are anymore. So, perhaps it's time to stop writing and instead develop new skills. Many of us try out live streams and actual plays. We're still creating, but now it's a performance rather than writing a scenario. We develop our acting skills, our ability to stream to digital platforms or in video editing. Alternatively, you might focus on skills that help other authors on the Miskatonic Repository. You could provide editing services, learn layout design, become an artist of original or stock art. Maybe you combine all of those and become a mentor. But what if even that doesn't call to you? You may want to try a new game. Call of Cthulhu isn't the only TTRPG, and the Miskatonic Repository is not the only vibrant content creator community out there. Do what you've done here, elsewhere. See if it works, and if it doesn't, what might work instead? Suppose none of this keeps you motivated, though. well, that's fine. Whatever you've contributed to the repository and its community, that's an achievement, an accomplishment. And maybe you can't repeat it or keep doing it. Some of us, me included, get caught up in this way of thinking that if we can't do something again, the first time didn't really count. It was a fluke. Then when we do it a second time, that was just luck. By the third time, it's simply your friends and family taking pity on you that you're still trying. But the failure does not prove the rule, and achievements don't lose value because we can't mass produce them. In the end, the only real tragedy isn't that you won't write another scenario, but that you forget what you've achieved. In a world that's constantly reminding us how little we matter, how modest our creative talents are against the best in the world, you decided to put yourself out there. And in so doing, you've enriched us all. That's it. That's the exit strategy. If you can't or don't want to improve on what you've created, or try something new, or try reinventing yourself, or just moving on to another game system, you may choose just to move on. You're not walking away, you're moving forward. Of course, there's one more option, but it may be the most difficult one, because it asks us to leave behind the person we were and become something entirely new. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Perhaps you shouldn't look for new ways to keep being the person you were, the person who was trying to build, to accomplish. You've done that. So now, don't be the person who builds something or works to maintain it. Just be creative. Create. Create because that's what you love doing. Whatever you decide, I, for one, can't wait to see what you'll do next. And as always, stay tuned for more.